forward to hear from her, about her, and to meet her. She's a young lady by the name Haben, and no more else or nobody else introduces her better than my good friend, my brother, what does the last aspire medal.
Thank you, Dr. Ka. كلكم التي وراي عبد على درجة نختم صحوا سؤال زلهم بشنكم. زربا خير وحكوا كلهم حنتي دراسة بيتنا عن الحجون زعبات زاري منانيرنا جن نفسه كفسر حبن جرما يلون دحر جوجل جيرو تاريخها بحصيرو نابو زلو سبس أبو سلزلو introduction بتحكي زي خوص ده كم كل سلزي حنتي نشتري بزعل ندرو هذا خبت أجد داسي نتفتات النفس وكف أخيرانا إن كايدو أجد استي سبات بمعدان مهاري الاستي العلم أستمرون فقربنا بزي مسر الدماء حلم جرمان نايلون معدي عزستي ناي كبرقاشانا هربركم دس يبلاني حلم أبعشل عدمئة كبيت بحري أبكلمئة زنبرلا بحريا وشكرات تحيسا عباي مهاريتم تتابعيتم نايسر أو مسألة في الله دماء تتابعيت مسألة أكلت سجونات كتكون زبقات تبعن باللحن سبب سجماتا عشان نفا أبنت نايسن عكس هونت حكينا كخابيا حبن جرما كابلويس إن كلارك كولج تشحن عسرتن بمعارك بيئة تمرقت كزيلا دما كاب هارفارد يونيفرسيتي لو سكول تشحن عسرت سلسة نحكي معارك تشلمت أب هارفارد يونيفرسيتي تمهاري تابس نبرة اللؤوان عبي أدنى قد سترفت بلستي تمهاري زبل سيامي استقبلت كإلى سبيل أب وايت هاوس تعديما تتابعي نايلوت إتباهيلا استمسجنت سبيل أب استفرالي فرنعاتنا عدم إنها تعدمت أستبروتاتي مخرطاتي للتقرب وهبتي بعتها تبقانا أكالت سكونا عن كينا أب كبابي أب كاليفورنيا تقلقل بركلي كاليفورنيا تقلقل حبن كم شما حبننا كلها يوم مسكين حبن جرما كيلانا أتقوي ولتكرن سعادة حبيرنا نتاقع just want to say a little word in English too. I am honored to introduce you to our keynote speaker and guest of honor, Haben Girma. Haben is an extraordinary person who accomplished so much in her tender age against formidable obstacles. She conquered her disability to rise to prominence, to be a genuine motivator and a true role model. Haben Girma received her law degree from Harvard University in 2013 and BA from Clark and Lewis College in 2010. During her time as a student in Harvard, she was ranked one of the most impressive students. The White House recognized her as a champion of change. She is an internationally recognized person who travels the world to deliver motivational speeches. Haben is a passionate human rights activist and a respected attorney and disability rights advocate in Berkeley, California. You see, her name is a perfect reflection of who she is. The name Haben, as you might all know, in our main languages, Tigrinya, Blaine means pride. Yes, indeed, she is our pride. Please join me to welcome Haben Kidana Adgoy, a product of Keren.
Hello, أنا حاجنيا من لشتي تجنياي ثالث كمله. don't hear very well, so I want to try that one more time. Keren home. I grew up in Oakland, California. I was born in 1988, and both my parents are from Eritrea. So growing up, I heard many stories about Eritrea. Lots of wonderful, strong, inspiring stories. And I am both deaf and blind. For short, I just say deafblind. And I graduated from college and went to law school and now work as a lawyer for a company called Disability Rights Advocates in Berkeley. And we do disability rights work, helping people all across the country to remove access barriers. In Long Beach, the sidewalks have giant cracks and obstacles that make it hard for wheelchair users to get through. So we're helping wheelchair users in California gain equal access to the sidewalks. In other cases, we're helping deaf individuals get access to videos online, so those videos have captions. Lots of different access issues, and that's what we do. And people ask me, where do you get your motivation to be a lawyer, to go to Harvard when you're deafblind? And I tell them, I'm Eritrean. Stories of resilience, of people being strong and standing up for what they believe in. I grew up with those stories, and with those stories, I can't help responding in the same way. When I encounter obstacles, I don't say no. I keep going. I keep trying. When I was in college, the cafeteria didn't want to make their menus accessible. So there was a menu on the wall, in print, and people who could see the menu, but I couldn't see it. So I asked them to email me the menu, and my computer would read it to me. They said okay, but they didn't do it. So after asking nicely, repeatedly, and nothing happening, I told them that there's a law in America called the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if your business is going to continue, it needs to comply with that law. That law requires all businesses to make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. I was paying for this service to eat at the cafeteria. They needed to make a reasonable accommodation. Just email the menu. Very easy. One click. Copy, paste. And that's all I was asking them to do. And when I used the law to explain this, they understood that they weren't just doing me a favor, but they were also needing to comply with the law. And by making it accessible for me, they were making it accessible for all the other blind and low vision students at the college. And that's one thing about accessibility. When you do something to help one person, it often helps other people too. Ramps going up to sidewalks, that helps people with wheelchairs. But it also helps parents with strollers or travelers with luggage on wheels. So when you do one thing to make things easier for one group of people, you end up helping another group of people. And I learned to continue overcoming obstacles and supporting others because I'm Eritrean and I grew up with these stories. My mother's name is Saba, and Saba grew up in Eritrea amidst a 30-year war with Ethiopia. I grew up hearing the stories of how my family had to stand strong, maintain their culture, their language, their tradition, their stories. And those stories became my stories. And I grew up hearing those and learning that I need to be resilient. I need to be strong like the Eritreans. When she was 14, she was part of a marching band, and they supported what they believed in, equality, the right for everyone, their brothers, their sisters. And the Ethiopian soldiers didn't believe in using music to empower individuals and told them to stop singing. The girls stood up for their rights. And I remember that story, my mother telling me this, and so many other stories from my other relatives. The trip of coming to America, so many different ways Eritreans have done that. And you've all heard those stories. Everyone knows these stories. And these stories make us resilient. So regardless of the obstacles, whether it's disability and blindness, or whether it's poverty, or whether it's a difficult child in high school, and you trying to maintain the balance between having an Eritrean Habesha hat and an American hat, you can overcome these obstacles because Eritreans have the story of resilience and making their dreams come true through persistence. So when people ask me, how did you get through Harvard Law School when you're deafblind? How do you work as a lawyer when you're deafblind? I just can't help it because I grew up with these stories. It's part of who I am, but it's also part of all of you. So I was asked to come here and inspire Eritreans. But the truth is, Eritreans inspire me. I wouldn't be doing what I do now if I didn't have the Eritrean stories growing up to tell me it doesn't matter how small your country is, you'll make it, you'll get independence. It doesn't matter about the misunderstandings in the international world. People survive. People will come together and help each other. That's our story of resilience. And it translates to all obstacles in the United States. Disability, poverty, careers. And deafblindness is just one of many, many challenges that I encounter. I now work on behalf of clients, people with disabilities throughout the United States, to make the country more accessible. Whether it's making sure videos have captions for people who are deaf, sidewalks clear for people who use wheelchairs. I'm supporting them, and I use that story of resilience. As a person with a disability, I encounter many challenges, and the secret to them is using creative solutions. There are lots of Eritreans with disabilities, and I think we could all do more to make sure that they have equal access to education and opportunities. I've met with students at the Eritrean School for the Blind, and I've donated some books. There are many Braille books here in the United States, and we could help them by sending those Braille books back to Eritrea so they get access to books. Reading facilitates knowledge. It's really, really important to be able to read, especially when you're blind. So I would love to use this opportunity to remind everyone that Eritreans with disabilities are out there, and they're part of our community, and also deserve equal access. And by making sure they have access to education, supporting people in the pursuit of knowledge, from books to wheelchair access. Money is something we have more of in the United States compared to Eritrea and other countries, but money is not always the answer. Sometimes it's just having the right attitude, having that story of resilience. I can do it. Regardless of the obstacle, you can do it. We'll all do it. So even if you have limited resources, or you can't afford to buy fancy computers, you can still find solutions by using creativity and having the right attitude. There are blind individuals in Eritrea who are making their way through the education system, even though they don't have all the technology that blind individuals have in the United States. But they still do it because they're resilient, because they're Eritreans, and because we don't give up. So I have a computer here with me. It's called a Braille note. It's called a Braille note. And because I'm deafblind, it's hard to hear people. And I use two forms of communication. I know sign language, and I'm able to use sign language with certain people who know sign language. But with others who don't know sign language, there's also typing. So I connect my Braille display with a QWERTY keyboard, which is a standard, regular keyboard, and people can type on the keyboard, usually in English. I don't know how to read Tigrinya, but there are blind people who can read Tigrinya Braille. I've seen it before. So that's a talent that I should work on and improve. But right now I just use English. So I would love to open it up for questions, whether it's about law, if you're interested in going into law school, or you have disability questions and want to know more about my motivations, I'd love to open it up for questions. So Gordon, do you think you could set up the keyboard? Okay, the keyboard is on and connected. So if people have questions, they can ask their questions, and Gordon will type the question on the keyboard, and I'll be able to read it on my Braille display. Ready?
Okay, Haben, I have a question. Professionally, part of my responsibility, I'm ADA coordinator. We have law in the United States of America to protect and to help disabled people to live right. What can we do, these laws or this kind of, it needs education, it needs strong laws in developing countries. How can we expedite this kind of equality to go further to another countries?
Well, there are several different non-profit organizations that are helping to move that message. So role models are a huge impact. So having individuals with disabilities come and visit those countries would make a huge difference. So I don't know if there are any programs that do that for Eritrea, but it would be great if you did. There's a program called Mobility International USA, and it takes students to Turkey and Bahrain they take people with disabilities from America to Turkey and teach them Braille, sign language, the use of wheelchairs. And once you teach those skills, those individuals become leaders in that country and teach those skills to their other members in those countries. So if we had an organization that found Eritreans with disabilities or other non-Eritreans with disabilities from the United States and took them for 3 weeks, 4 weeks in Eritrea to teach Braille, sign language, adaptive living skills, positive attitude, that would make a huge difference. It's all about having the right skills in order to succeed.
I wanted to say something before I give it to the rest of the group. First of all, I'm very proud that there is a Haben Girma and whose parents are from Keren. We're very proud about that. just being is great to us. Secondly, I listened to her TED Baltimore talk. So if you haven't seen it, it's about 15 minutes. You will have an opportunity to listen to her. And what I learned from that is when they didn't send her the food from the cafeteria, didn't email it to her, she said, should I continue to complain? He says, my mother walked from Keren to Sudan. I don't think she complained. So she was going to give up on complaining, but then she said, there are a lot of disabled people who are going to have this problem. So she had to do it for other people. So I think that was inspirational to me. I want to thank her. I'll leave the rest of the group to you. Hold on.
You want to say anything? Right. I'm going to give the next question.
Haben, first of all, thank you very much for that talk. I was very impressed, to say the least. And I have a question for you. I know the resilience of Eritreans because we went through a very tough situation in our country for many years. My question for you is though, knowing my culture as well, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to disability or treating people with disability. We never talk about it. We try to hide it as much as possible. And I don't know if you've heard any stories growing up of how people were treated with disability, number one. Number two, I was wondering if you can comment on what we should do in order to make our people as open as possible to talk about these issues within our society, within our community, and what advice would you have that we can do to accomplish what you accomplished in your life? Thank you.
Being open and accepting who you are is a valuable thing regardless of whether you have a disability or not. So we should all love ourselves and be proud of who we are regardless of whether there's a disability or not, but especially for people with disabilities. For example, if blind individuals are going to be independent, they need to be able to use a cane or a guide dog. When you use a cane or guide dog, it makes it very obvious to everyone around you that you're blind. So some blind individuals feel shy to use a cane or guide dog because of the fear of people judging or people thinking less of them because of their blindness. So if everyone in the community accepted difference is interesting. Life is more exciting when things are different. If we were all exactly the same, life would be very boring and we'd have nothing to talk about. So if we recognize that disability is a type of difference that makes life interesting, and blindness in itself doesn't tell you a lot about the person. There are blind people who are amazing and blind people who are crazy. All different types of individuals. It's just one part of a personality. And this is true for other types of disabilities. So in terms of how we can be more open, just recognizing that diversity is good and appreciating the value given by differences. And if you encounter people with disabilities, feel comfortable asking questions. Ask, do you need assistance? Is there anything I can help with? And then also, ask human questions. Kamemaho, what's going on? How's weather today? So they're also individuals and people. And treating them as people and accepting diversity and differences would do a lot for our community and Eritreans with disabilities in our community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Haben. I have a question of a different type of disability, and that's about mental illness. In our country, people who are mentally ill, they are part of the community, and whether we take care of them or not, they are living in their community. But here, Eritreans who come to the United States, they go through various types of depression, mental illness, and I have a cousin by the name of Haben Girma who grew up with me, who has been through the jail system, homelessness, medication. It's a revolving door. And it's not only my cousin, there are a lot of Eritreans who are suffering from mental illness. So my question is, like, the ADA takes care of physical disabilities and stuff. Is there anything that can be done for mentally ill people? Thank you.
For all disabilities, and especially mental illness, it's really important that the community open up and accept diversity and differences. A speaker earlier was talking about how getting counseling is taboo, and we need to change that and accept counseling. So when someone needs help, the community should support them in getting that help. If someone is struggling with mental illness, the community should be supportive and say, "You're welcome to talk to me." Or if you feel more comfortable, we can arrange to have you talk with a therapist or a doctor. So always look for solutions. Always look for alternatives. If one thing isn't working, try something else. And individuals with mental illness really need their communities to support and help out, but also listen to their voices. Because sometimes what happens is people with mental disabilities are not listened to. Their voices are oppressed, and that's not good either. So there's a balance between helping individuals and listening and letting them help themselves. So that's something we all need to be cautious about, respecting individuals and making sure that we treat them with dignity and respect, while also offering the support they might need.
Haben, as your name says, have been explained, Haben is a pride in Tigray, Tigrinya, and Plain also. I'm very proud. You are not only Eritrean, you are super Eritrean, inspiring all of us. You have educated us something which I always used to avoid, and that is any disabled person. I used to be cautious and skeptical, asking that he need help, and if he can, we can support, or if we can help, and as a human. But today you educated us. This is a very good point. I used to miss. My question is direct. I want to know why you choose law, and during pursuing your Harvard postgraduate, did you find any difficulty, and what was it? Number 3, do you have in your agendas, for example, taking Eritrea as an example, and you a super Eritrean, do you have a project of, because underdeveloped countries nowadays, they don't have these facilities, and the disabled people, they are really confined. We used to have the deaf school in Keren, and we have, I don't know about the blind, but they have a limited, institutional postgraduate. The universities, the colleges are not equipped well to handle such things. Do you have this idea maybe to throw it to the humanitarian, whatever it is, and do you have an idea about that? Thank you very much, Haben. I'm really inspired about you, and everybody is inspired. Thank you.
So those were many, many questions. I believe the first one was, why did I decide to go to law school? And when I was in college, I was thinking about what do I want to do with my life and how can I best help my community. And in order to best help my community, I needed to go somewhere that would value my skills. So I analyzed my skills. I don't see well, so I wouldn't be a good bus driver. I don't hear well, so I probably shouldn't go into music. But writing, analyzing, problem solving, those are things I do very well. So I wanted to go into a field that would value problem solving, writing, analyzing. There are many fields, but one example of that is law. So by going into law school, I would be using the skills that I do best, writing and analyzing and communicating. And we all want to be valued members of our community. So it's a process of analyzing what your skills are, what are your strengths, and then looking for careers that value those strengths. For me, that happened to be law, but there are other ways to do that too. For everyone, it's different. It's a different analysis of their strengths and pairing that up with a career that values those strengths. So I felt that I would be valued as a lawyer, so I went into that field. I might need to reread the other question.
Eritrean organizations.
What can you do to
For deaf and blind.
Eritrean, deaf and blind in Eritrea and here? So one thing I want to say about schools in Eritrea for people with disabilities, so we had a movement here in the United States. At the beginning, in the early part of the century, 1920s, 1930s, the ideal was to have a separate school for people with disabilities, a school for the blind, a school for the deaf. That was what was going on. But then they realized that was segregation. And sometimes what would happen is the schools for the blind would have worse teachers, or they wouldn't have as strong academic programs as, say, the mainstream schools. So later, in the 1970s, they moved to desegregate the schools so that students with disabilities can be mainstreamed. So blind students, instead of going to a separate school for the blind, would go to a mainstream school and would learn alongside sighted individuals. And a teacher of a mainstream classroom would need to be aware, instead of just making a course, a program for just sighted students, they would think, okay, I'm going to convey the information one way, then provide the information another way, and by providing the information in several channels, then everyone will learn. So the teacher might use voice first, then might write the information on the board or on a handout, might do a physical exercise to like science experiments, hands-on demonstrations for the children who learn best by engaging in activities. So that concept is called universal design. So in Eritrea, I know there's a school for the blind, and it would be great if schools could move towards mainstreaming individuals. So all students being able to go to the same school and teachers using universal design. Braille books can be moved to a mainstream school. They don't need to be limited to a special school for the blind. So growing up here, I went to a mainstream school, and I received my education alongside sighted students. And I had Braille materials, and the special education teachers would come to the school maybe once a week or 1 hour a day, and the students would learn for a little bit of Braille and then go back to the mainstream classroom. So if that idea of mainstreaming students and using universal design in schools could be transferred to Eritrea, that could do a lot for students with disabilities. And that idea can also be used at the university level.
Hi, Haben. My name is Kemma, and I am starting college next week, freshman year. I was wondering, how would you advise someone who isn't as sure what they'd like to major in, and just sort of how your college experience was, and what you like to do for fun, maybe hobbies and stuff, and how you think it differs or is similar to just pretty much anyone else.
So for college majors, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time. I started saying, I want to do math. Then I switched, I want to do computer science. Then eventually I switched to sociology and anthropology. In most situations, every school is different, but a lot of schools give you time to explore and figure out what you'd like to do. So through freshman year, what I would advise is as you take a variety of different courses, try to get a sense of what your strengths are. What are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? And based on that, based on your strengths, your skills, your passions, then start moving towards a specific career. So take your time and just analyze what you're good at, what makes you happy, and then focus on that. We help our community best by being our best. So by figuring out your strengths and then filling a role in society that makes use of those strengths, you would be doing a lot for yourself and for your community. When I was in college, I took ballroom dance classes and absolutely loved it. So for fun, that's what I do. I do dancing, salsa and swing and a little bit of Argentine tango. So that's what I like to do for fun. I also have a dog. She's a guide dog. But when she's off duty, she likes to play. So we'll play ball with her in Berkeley, go out for ice cream, hang out with friends. So those are some of the things I do for fun.
Thank you, Haben. What an inspiring young lady you are. I'm really inspired. I'm very glad to be here to listen to what you have to say. It's very important. You brought up a very important topic about mental health. Me working with the refugee and new arriving refugee and immigrant, I see a lot of mental health problems. When refugee and immigrant come to this country, they screen them for STD, TB, and other stuff, but they never screen them for mental health. People coming from civil wars, war-torn countries, they've been through a lot when they come to this country. It's not easy voyage. So they come, we see all these symptoms. I will come. Yes, this is the problem. This is what our community needs to bring on the forefront and talk about it. And we come with a solution. And I see that in the community I work. I work with refugees from all over the world. So what I'm saying is our community, we are not discussing about this issue. And there is ways we can help by being active, by being engaged. Of course, we know where we are, who we are, where we come from. We are Eritreans. But where we live, in the districts we live, in the cities we live, we have to be active. How to become active? By
serving in boards and advocating in behalf of our people. Who's going to advocate for these mentally challenged people? Us. But what I see in our country is, in our society, we don't want to go out and advocate for this. So what I want to say is here, mental health is rampant in our community and it's very important. We see a lot of suicide, we see a lot of murder, and we see a lot of these things happening. So it's better to get engaged instead of just, yeah. So do you have any suggestions, how the community get galvanized and be proactive and active on this issue?
Very good.
In my experience, it really helps to have role models. So if Eritreans who are comfortable with mental illness can stand up and tell their communities, this is something I experience, it's okay, we need to all support each other. There's a lot of fear around mental illness, so it would do a lot if people would stand up and stop being scared about it. So my biggest suggestion would be to start creating role models for individuals so that more and more people can come forward and address the issue. Self-identification is really, really helpful. Once people start self-identifying, it becomes easier for others to stop being ashamed about mental illness. It's really, really important to be able to support each other. And shame is a huge barrier in terms of supporting each other. So if we could stop being ashamed of mental illness and help each other through workshops, having speakers with mental illness who self-identify, come forward, those are some of the things we could do to help the community address the issue and stop being ashamed about it.
I'm really, really blessed to hear you, Haben. It's a wonderful, inspiring topic, and I'm going to come to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Fakakaptet. I'm a brother of Professor Yagin. You met him in the Virgin Islands, and watch out, I'm going to give you a hug. I have to go back 25 years back. In my old college days, when we see a woman like you, we had a code for them. And we used to call them BI, means beautiful and intelligent. You are a complete package. Thank you very much. And it's an honor to have you. You are a wonderful lady. Ladies and gentlemen, Haben Girma. Give it up. Pride and honor of Eritrea. Thank you for making us proud. And now without further ado, on behalf of all the Koronite, there are people from Keren. All the Koronite, I would like to present my friend to give you a gift.
Haben, you're beautiful, intelligent, smart. That's just given. But you have a unique gift. You open every single person's heart in this house. And that is a unique gift. We now can love any barriers that we have, any challenges we have. We looked with a bit of a shame and a shadow for any barriers we had. Today, you have proven to these people over here that no more. And I thank you for that. And I celebrate you. And I celebrate those peers that raised you to be a fine girl. So, congratulations. A gift from our community. to just remind you how much we love you. So it's a very thing.
Yeah, and also I would like to thank the gentleman who introduce us to Haben. Well, this is Selassie, that's fine. Thank you very much. Very grateful. Thank you. All of you who brought this special guest, all of you from Dr. Mariam, Dr. Saba, and always it's an honor and privilege to have our beloved director, Mohammed Kamal. Thank you very much. And here is the gift. Okay, now we can, all right. All right, we'd like to thank our translator. Thank you. Without you, we would have